Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic and that you're all having a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. There's a brand new video every 24 hours. Very big thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel since 2016. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The cryptocurrency market has already been in a very good spot. If you missed, and I mean really around March, we were told that April, May, and June would be just amazing time-wise for the cryptocurrency market. Around June, we are expecting a number of ETFs to either get the yay or the nay. We're getting a lot of corporate attention for whatever the reason might be. If you missed it over the last few weeks, a lot of news about companies and corporations buying Bitcoin, new companies entering the space, announcing that they want 100,000 Bitcoin, companies who have already been in the space announcing gigantic acquisitions. We are, as far as we know, being told that, and this is the numbers that we're getting, that by the time we are around July, sometime in July, that's constantly the frame, is that we're going to be around a $200,000 to a $250,000 Bitcoin. This news story, of course, involves Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, and Metaplanet. So, of course, it ended up in one of the most popular news stories. It's a bit perplexing, but it's also like, okay, sure, I guess why not? We can all deal with that in some sort of way. Michael Saylor, founder and executive chairman of MicroStrategy, published a tweet calling out another Bitcoin company called Metaplanet and their chief executive officer, Simon Gerovich, as if hinting that it is time the company made another Bitcoin purchase. MicroStrategy is nearing, as we've gone over a dozen times, MicroStrategy is nearing 1 million Bitcoin. We recently heard that Metaplanet, I believe, has 7,200 Bitcoin. Their goal is to get to 10,000 Bitcoin this year. They're well on their way. I thought they wouldn't be able to do it, especially with their numbers at the beginning of the year. But they recently had, it was like a $100 million purchase or something like that. MicroStrategy was also recently in news. They purchased, I think, another 7,000 Bitcoin or something along those lines. But apparently now they're telling the other company that they need to make more. Saylor highlighted Metaplanet's stock price increase after the company announced a major Bitcoin acquisition earlier this week. If you missed that portion of the news, Michael Saylor told companies about 2 weeks ago, you kind of have no choice. You have to have Bitcoin or you're going to fold. If you buy Bitcoin, your stock price is going to go a lot higher. Metaplanet stock has been doing exceptionally well since they announced that they were going to start buying Bitcoin. MicroStrategy stock has gone up by 3,000%. Therefore, sure, why not? Scrolling along. Words. Michael Saylor shared a trading view chart showing the movement of Metaplanet's stock price. The graph reveals that over the past 24 hours, Metaplanet's stock soared by roughly 10%. This reflects investor optimism regarding the company's recently adopted Bitcoin-focused strategy. Someone wrote, "What's up with Metaplanet?" Simon at Gerovich, Saylor tweeted. Company boss Simon Gerovich quoted Saylor's tweet, responding to it and stressing the key importance of Bitcoin for Metaplanet's success now. He said, Bitcoin is the key. Metaplanet unlocked. Here's the tweet right here, and this what was causing all the fuss. Yep, not even a joke. That's it. Basically, Michael Saylor telling another company who does not have $48 billion at their disposal, basically that they should be buying more. I'm going to say something and then we're going to move on. I want you to all make note of everything that's happening, everything that's taking place, every news about every acquisition, and really understand how early that you are. And I hope that in many ways you are taking advantage of the gigantic opportunity that you have in front of you, because a large amount of Bitcoin is officially off the table. We now have 12 companies who have all announced openly that their goal is just to buy Bitcoin and never to sell it, either to be a bank or to lend it out, whatever the case might actually be. Understand that there is an opportunity to be had, and a lot of people are missing out on what that might be. That's the Michael Saylor tweeted and then told someone else, buy more, basically. And yeah, let's move on. Also in the news, it's a bit of an echo, but it is quite loud. We have received news for a few weeks as well regarding the amount of crypto on crypto exchanges. This is something that I personally have been talking about at great lengths for the last 3 years on both channels, both here and on Money Rules. One of the weirdest parts, well, actually, I think all of it's been exceptionally weird. People pushing back in the comment section, telling me that there actually isn't a decrease in the amount of crypto on crypto exchanges when we get like explicit numbers all the time. You can also like see the numbers yourself. It's like, it's literal public knowledge. This idea, and I told you this before, and I referred to it as a magic trick. Over the last 4 or 5 months, Ethereum's price was like heavily going down, and there were a lot of analysts who were predicting that by May, we would have a $400 or $500 Ether. And this was mainly, I don't know. I can't actually tell you why. Maybe they completely lost their minds somewhere along the way. While Ether's price was dropping, we kept on getting new, and Bitcoin as well. We kept on getting news that a lot of Ether and Bitcoin was being taken off of exchanges. And then we kept on hearing that a lot of institutional buying was moving into the Ethereum ETFs. We got news that the amount of Ether being staked directly on the network, Ethereum, was also rising quite rapidly. I think at some point we heard 8%, then it was 12%, then 25%, etc., etc., etc. And then we started hearing that a lot of institutions and companies were also buying in secret, if you will, because we got news that the amount of, you remember, the amount of Bitcoin on crypto exchanges had not been this low since 2018. And then we got news that the amount of Ether on exchanges hadn't been this low since I think a year or two after the Ethereum project had actually started. So, as the only way to create Ether is by owning Ether, and as we get continued news that BlackRock is going to get in-kind redemptions for their Ethereum ETF, as well as staking for their Ethereum ETF, it makes total sense that while the price is down, while no one else is paying attention, while tons of retail investors leave the market, while long-term investors also leave the market as well, no longer have an interest in it, get annoyed, bored, frustrated, sell their coins, who exactly they're selling these coins to. You are here early for a purpose, and you should be using this opportunity. The other problem is that irrespective of how early you are, what you could be doing, how much money you could make in the future, there's always something that pushes people away, and it pushes them out of the market, and you essentially Don't forget this. In the year 2040, like just recite this over and over. I sold my coins to BlackRock. I sold my coins to MicroStrategy. I sold all of my coins to all the other ETFs around the world as we keep hearing that these coins are disappearing from crypto exchanges. And the idea basically for a lot of people is that in the future, I'll be able to buy more. And it's like, okay, sure, you keep that same exact energy. Current data on the Ethereum blockchain reveals what they're calling a significant milestone. The total supply of ETH on exchanges has plummeted to its lowest level ever. Experts interpret this as an indicator of reduced selling pressure and a strong shift towards long-term holding among market participants. In tandem with this development, Ethereum's price has surged 7%. They're talking about the actual movement over the course of that day. I think this news is interesting. If everyone's going to actually pay attention to it, that's another conversation basically in and of itself. The wealth allocation that we currently have on the planet is very skewed to one side for hundreds of factors. I had assumed years ago that a lot of people in crypto would have taken this opportunity and really grabbed it by the horns and made sure that they also did everything in their power to make sure that they became wealthy and also had generational wealth. But alas, that's not the way that things are, and they're probably actually never going to be. So the amount of Bitcoin on crypto exchanges continues to rapidly disappear. The whales who had their coins on exchanges have taken them off. The amount of Ether that was on exchanges is probably at its lowest level since around 2015. So, in the future, when you hear, no, it's fine. We can just continue on. Yeah, that's the Ethereum news. The amount of Ether on crypto exchanges is at its lowest level ever. I will, go on a limb here, and I'm going to say that that's not going to slow down anytime soon, and probably by the time we end up getting to December, I can't imagine there actually being like any or much left. But that's for people in the comment section to call me crazy. Going over this news every 24 hours, you keep thinking that these things are abundant and that there's going to be enough for you and that you're... Okay, cool. That's the Ethereum news. Fantastic. Let's move on. In one of the largest, this was one of the largest news stories. I'm going to say it this way. I think we were supposed to care about this news. A lot of times, very wealthy and rich people who have been in the market tell us not to be in the market. And I know this because I've been here for a long time. I've seen them enter the space. I've seen them having discussions on panels and conversations and going on news platforms and saying that Bitcoin is terrible and Ethereum is horrible and no one should be using Bitcoin and no one should be using crypto. Anything that's permissionless should not be allowed. We don't need any of this in the world. We have banks. Why would we need anything different? A lot of these banks and institutions and these billionaires, as it were, have an affinity for trying to essentially, it's pretty evident to make sure that normal people don't have anything until they decide to stand up on a wooden box and declare to everyone that they should then now have something. This is clearly some kind of a ploy or some level of manipulation, as is usually true for this Batman level criminal organization. But when this appeared in the news, everyone was like optimistic about it because people don't understand that evil exists and they think that everything is as it seems. But we'll go over it and then I'll tell you what happened and I'll show you some other stuff that happened and then you'll understand a little bit more as to where I'm coming from. JP Morgan Chase will apparently soon allow their clients to buy Bitcoin. This was said by their CEO, Jamie Dimon, at the firm's annual investor day. One, JP Morgan Chase is a bank that is not to be trusted. That is not new news that I am sprinkling on to you. They are one of the, I told you, like almost Batman level, like that kind of like almost cartoonish in that manner. Jamie Dimon over years has told people that Bitcoin is literal garbage and no one should remotely get near it. He also even threatened, years ago, workers. This was 2017, 2018. You can find the article. That anyone working for JP Morgan Chase, if they touched Bitcoin, they would be fired. That was like a really big thing. He used to skip down the street, him and Warren Buffett, quite often, talking about how terrible Bitcoin was, while not mentioning that those two people alone own the wealth of a literal 500 million to 1 billion people, but they see nothing wrong with the fiat system that has given us this terrible planet that we currently live on. So the news coming out that JP Morgan has finally, what's the word, bit the foot or something like that, and will allow their clients, is also like really weird news. Remember, this was a couple of years ago. There was another bank who announced that they were going to allow their clients to be able to buy Bitcoin. And I sat there perplexed, as I normally am, because the world is quite dumb. And I said, I don't even like Coinbase, but they can just use Coinbase. They can use Kraken. They can use Gemini. They can use Binance. They can use Robinhood. There's a bunch of different places. I understand that wealthier clients probably want stuff to go through the bank that they're using, JP Morgan, but using that as an excuse, what's probably actually happened is that clients were probably asking them to do this for a very long time. And when they didn't offer the actual product, these clients probably went to Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, or they opened up a Robinhood app, or they probably contacted another company and bought some shares through the actual Bitcoin ETFs. Money doesn't wait, especially for a bank trying to, it's not even rest on their laurels. It's just like, okay, Talking to CNBC, Dimon said clients would soon be able to buy Bitcoin, though the bank itself won't be holding the asset, I'm sure. I'm so sure. All these major banks around the world, BlackRock and Fidelity, getting directly, diving into the deep end in Bitcoin, and you want me to sit here and believe that JP Morgan owns zero? You can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to me. He said we're not going to custody it, he noted, adding only that Bitcoin will appear in statements for clients. No additional details were disclosed. The move marks a notable shift for the largest U.S. bank, particularly as rival Morgan Stanley already offers access to spot Bitcoin ETFs for qualifying clients, because why wouldn't they? I sometimes think that it has to do with maybe being proud in some sort of way, or thinking, well, we're JP Morgan. Everyone's going to listen to us. Do you remember years ago when JP Morgan made JP Morgan coin? For those of you who weren't here, yeah, that was a big thing. Everyone was, really angry when Facebook tried to make their own coin. And then all of a sudden, JP Morgan was like, hey, we made one as well. The problem was that they were telling other banks that the other banks had to use their coin. And the other banks were like, you must be out of your fudging mind. And guess where JP Morgan coin went? Yeah, precisely. So them announcing this as some type of like a magical thing. This is also one of the most popular news stories out there when, who cares? I've said this so many times also to great pushback in the comment section sometimes. When I say things about rich people, people don't understand I'll actually, first of all, let me reiterate this right now. I said this about 5 videos ago towards the end of a video. And in case any of you missed it, here we go again. If at any point you hear me say that I want things to be equal, or I want everyone to be happy, or I would like everyone to have a seat at the table, or that, I would love to eradicate poverty, or that I would love for normal people, billions of people, to actually have Bitcoin before rich people. If you have a problem with any of those things, the door's right there. What's the phrase? Don't let the door hit you with a good Lord split you. That sums it up precisely. The reason why I got into this space, why I got into this market, why I got into Bitcoin, why I got into crypto, was because of the ideas and the things that I saw from 2008 and 2009 with the system literally crashing and people losing all of their money and losing their fortunes and losing their homes and losing their pensions and losing their 401ks. We get Bitcoin as the answer. It's not the ultimate answer. Bitcoin can't do everything. But then we see that all the rich people are buying up all the Bitcoin, which then could be the answer, which could then be the everything. And people within crypto then have a problem when I talk about the original ideas as to why we have Bitcoin and who Bitcoin is for. Bitcoin is not for Jamie Dimon. It's not for Warren Buffett. I could care. If there's a number lower than 0, that's how much I actually care. These people have made money off the backs of a corrupt system. And them announcing that they, might have Bitcoin, might like Bitcoin, might understand Bitcoin, allowing their clients. Why would I care about that in any sort of way? Bitcoin, I told you, I want news stories about new wallet addresses. I want to hear that there are 50,000 new wallet addresses every single day in every single country, if we could, making sure that they absorb the remaining supply of Bitcoin. JP Morgan is expected to offer access to Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, according to sources cited by CNBC. Until now, the bank's exposure to crypto has been limited to futures-based products rather than direct investment options. Do you remember why we have Bitcoin futures? You can look it up. It's from 2018. We have Bitcoin futures as a way to actually control the Bitcoin market and move prices down. Yes, this was said by the former head of the CFTC. You can Google former CFTC Bitcoin futures. Read the articles and you'll understand. Yeah, and JP Morgan was one of the first making sure, because they said that they wanted to tame Bitcoin. T-A-M-E. They wanted to tame the price of Bitcoin and drag it down and control it. Why would I care what JP Morgan has to say? For those of you who have no idea, when I say like a cartoonish level of like a criminal organization, if you've never looked around, it's quite easy to find as well. This is not from one event. This is yearly, if sometimes multiple times per year. And a lot of people keep pretending that these things never happen. And it's usually because they made the rules themselves, and they also made the fines a lot lower than what they were actually even accused of doing. For those of you not looking at the screen, this is an article from, I believe, a couple of years ago. It says JP Morgan was fined $348 million for lapses in trade monitoring. Yes, over the years, people have figured out that a plethora of times JP Morgan was actually allegedly, wink, caught insider trading and manipulating all different forms of markets. The problem is that you see a fine of $348 million. You know that when they get fined $348 million, the bank has actually made around $5 billion. I know, crazy, right? Yeah, it's really insane. JP Morgan to pay $920 million for manipulating precious metals, the treasury market. They've been doing this for longer than you could possibly begin to imagine. There are a lot of rumors that around since the early 2000s, they've had a direct stronghold on the precious metals market. Have you ever looked at the prices of, especially years ago, like gold and silver, when they were trending sideways or even trending down during certain moments? We found out from a number of, you can call them whistleblowers, or you can call them people who had a conscience, who came forward and basically said they were told to, first of all, these banks own everything. They were told to buy up as much of these things as humanly possible to make sure that they were actually manipulating the price so that they could move it whichever way that they wanted to. So on any given day, on any given month, on any given year, the people doing these things knew exactly how to move the market in a certain way, exactly how much to buy, because they had the billions behind them to be able to do so. And they would sell and buy accordingly to make sure that the price, if it was beginning to break out, never actually broke out, so that JP Morgan could move it back down in the direction that they wanted to end up making billions of dollars. That also is the issue when it says that they had to pay a $920 million fee or a fine because they made billions from this. They don't care about the $920 million is nothing for what they've done over the course of a 25-year period. Yeah, crazy, right? This is another one. CFTC orders JP Morgan. This happened a lot. Like, I'm telling you, look around. You'll find so many instances, because a lot of people used to come forward years ago and people were like, you're lying. That doesn't make any sense. No, they were doing this all the time. One of the crazier things that people found out about as well, and this feels like it should be a tinfoil hat moment, but my friend, it's not. People found out that apparently, allegedly, a lot of very large banks. So you know how like stuff like enters like the streets and like street corners, and people sometimes will buy like baby powder, but it's not baby powder. You're catching my drift. That kind of thing. Well, guess what? We actually found out that a lot of the buying and selling actually comes from the banks. Boom, boom. Yeah, crazy, right? You would assume, how did that baby powder get to that street corner? Yeah, so for those of you not looking at the screen, it says a cargo ship owned by JP Morgan Chase was seized by the U.S. with 20 tons of baby powder. And they were subsequently fined because apparently they knew about said shipment. And this has happened multiple times before, especially when said powder was also being sent to a number of other countries. So when I tell you, I don't care what these people say, because they're like cartoonish levels of evil and like criminals. There's a reason why we have crypto and only the rich people are paying attention to it. That's going to be the folly of the entirety of this market. The market's going to succeed. The market's going to do exceptionally well because it's almost completely in the hands of these people who are going to make sure that their investment thrives. There's a reason why we keep hearing about Bitcoin being put into options and into futures and into derivatives. They're making sure that Bitcoin's liquidity and that Bitcoin's tentacles are on and in everything. So when I tell you to take advantage of this opportunity and pay attention to what's going on and really understand what's taking place right in front of you, this is what I mean. So, yeah, big news. JP Morgan, and there was another bank, some other major bank who also was adamantly against Bitcoin, also recently announced that they don't really hate it. And it's like, okay, that means and tells me you've been buying for a long time and now you're full. You figured out exactly how much you needed to make trillions. For those of you who don't know, we're expecting the world's first trillionaire. I know, crazy, terrible. Trillionaire to actually come from crypto. What a live to be a time. Well, I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.